We continued the class focusing on people that are not on our level, not doing what they're supposed to, and the basic message is love them more. Well, you're anyway supposed to love. We're supposed to love every Jew. True. But maybe some people you love a little more. You love a little harder. You love a little more overtly. There's a beautiful story with the Rebbe that probably many of you had heard, but I still think it's a beautiful story. So I'll share it. I'll say it briefly, though, for the benefit of people that know the story. That this was in the 1940s when the Rebbe and the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe were already in New York. And the Rebbe was not Rebbe yet. It was the time of the previous Rebbe, his father-in-law. But he was in 770 occasionally, and people would come in. It was a synagogue in a very Jewish area, a very, solid, actually well-to-do Jewish area. And many Jews at that time were not religious. They came to America and lost it. And quite a number of not religious Jews would come into the synagogue, and the Rebbe was so nice to them, and so warm, and so kind, and so loving. And another chassid, another Lubavitcher, saw this, and he was very disturbed. And he criticized the Rebbe. I mean, the Rebbe wasn't ready yet. He was another Jew. You could criticize him. He said, what you're doing is wrong. Why are you being so nice to all these people? You're sort of giving the message that they're fine. If you were cold, gave them a few good put downs, they'd shape up. But you're just being so nice and loving, like, they're not going to change. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not supposed to be so nice. So at an appropriate time, he asked the Rebbe, his father-in-law. And the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Yas, responded and said, every parent loves their child. But if a child's not well, the nature of a parent is to love them even more. And if a child is not well spiritually, that's the greatest, deepest not well. And therefore that should evoke the greatest love. And I think that's such a wonderful point for us to know as parents, for us to know when we're talking with another person, that if someone's not well on any level, a lot of people suffering in this world on so many levels, and that's just supposed to evoke more compassion, as we're going to discuss soon, and more love. If the love will or won't change their spiritual direction, as Sarah said, it probably will, but we might not see it. It's still exactly the best thing to do, is to give another person free, real, sincere love. Loma. So the Rebbe is not going to explain. So even someone who's very far from serving God, from the study of Torah, from the service of God, and that's why Hillel in the Mishnah, when he's discussing this injunction, he doesn't call them people. He calls them creations, meaning maybe their only virtue is they're a creature of God. They're created by God. That's enough. God made them. That's enough. Tzarich l'mashchan. You have to draw them close. Bechevle avosos ahava. With thick ropes of love. You draw the person to God by drawing the person to you with, imagine that. It's very vivid to me. Thick, thick ropes of love. Real love, sincere love. The hulai ha'iva ulai, and maybe you'll be able to draw them close to Torah and to serving God. Lo, and maybe not. But if not, lo hifsitz char mitzvahs avas rayim. You didn't lose out. You're loving another Jew. You're still doing something wonderful. You're still doing something precious and important. The whole point of this chapter. Now it's interesting because the way the Alter Rebbe is writing it, it's almost like he's really not sure if it's going to work. What he's saying is, again, here's this person. They're not on your level. You don't have a relationship with them. You can't rebuke them and then hate them. What are you supposed to do? Walk away and say, what a pity? No, he says you're supposed to love them. And love them and love them and love them. And your love should draw them close to God. But it might not draw them close to God, but it's still a great thing you're doing. I think in our days, it's a little bit easier, this whole process. I mean, we live in a time where like, whoa, the tshuva movement just like exploded, right? And we can take a little survey or not, but who doesn't know many, 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 many people that have returned to God, or their parents have, or their grandparents have? I mean, that's the norm in our times. In the times of the Alter Rebbe, it wasn't. It's actually very interesting, because on the Alter Rebbe's tombstone, on his matseva, it writes there, I don't remember the exact language, I don't want to misquote, it's sort of vague in my brain at the moment, someone else knows, they can say it or chat it, but it writes there that he drew people back close to God, as a tremendous praise of this tremendous, tremendous leader of world Jewry, the Alter Rebbe. And that could be said about a lot of people in our generation. So seemingly times have changed. We're, at the cusp of the redemption. There's enormous spiritual energy in the world. And therefore it's almost like a fire so easy to ignite, like so ready to burn, that it doesn't take the spiritual strength of the Alter Rebbe to return a Jew and bring them back close to God. But maybe in the Alter Rebbe's times it did, and that's why it's his praise. But maybe in our times it doesn't, and that's why it's far more norm. Which would imply that when you're loving another Jew and loving them, it's really, as Sarah said, it's really going to make a difference that you probably will be able to see later. You can always keep in mind that beautiful metaphor that I love of the rock in Rabbi Akiva. Drop, 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 and the hole is pierced through the rock. Another piece of love, another drop of love, another drop of love, and love is expressed by giving. The Hebrew word ahava is the word hav, which means to give, love, and giving that expresses this true feeling, and giving that expresses it. And the rocks get penetrated, and people get affected seemingly far, far more easily than in the times when the Tanya was written. So now we went through our two roads, right, in our flow chart. Someone on your level, you have the relationship, you can rebuke, they didn't listen, they told you to stop rebuking them, you have to hate them. Someone that, well, we sort of added a road of someone not on your level, or on your level but you don't have a relationship with. We said, well, try to direct this information to someone who can help. Someone not on your level, no relationship, or you do have a relationship but not on your level, well, create a real relationship. Love them, love them, love them, love them. Hopefully it will help facilitate their return to God. If it doesn't, it's an amazing thing. You're loving a Jew. That's an amazing thing. So now we're going back to that first road. The person that we said, well, we have no choice. It's not like this. It's not the high majority of people. It's not everyone you see sinning, as might be misconstrued from the Talmud. It's not the majority. It's not 50%. It's probably a very, very, very narrow amount of people that actually are sinning, are on your level. You have the relationship and you rebuke them sincerely many times, and they told you to stop talking, and now you have to hate them. Am I done? Of course I'm not done. So the Rebbe continues about that very, very, very tiny percentage, if you ever come across such a situation, which many of us will never come across because we might never get to that point of rebuking. So it's a very narrow, but even for that very, very narrow situation, the now, even those people that are close to you in terms of your level, close to you in terms of your relationship, and therefore you did what you were supposed to do, and you did rebuke them. And they didn't stop sinning. That we are told in the Talmud. It's an injunction. It's not an option. You must hate them for this evil that is gripping them so deeply. Imagine what's going on here. Here's a person who knows, and who you love, and who knows you love them, and who are you with all your sincerity saying words that are true, and words that come from your heart. And we're told if words are true and words come from your heart, they have to affect the other person. So surely they're affecting him. But yet still the evil is gripping him so strongly, he cannot stop what he's doing. And therefore we're told there's a reason to hate at this point. The hatred is the sign to him, you have to change. There's some evil here worthy of being hated. It's worthy of being hated, has such a grip on you. But at the same time, mitzvah lavam gamkein. We didn't stop your other commandment, which is to love every single Jew. So first of all, most people misconstrue the Talmud and think you're supposed to hate all sinners. Even if you know, which people probably don't, that it only refers to this very, very, very minor, very narrow category. But the Alter Rebbe says, but by the way, the fact that you have a commandment to hate doesn't take away your commandment to love. You have 2 commandments for this person. Everyone else you're supposed to love, and this person you're supposed to love, and you're supposed to hate. Now we're like, wait a minute. How can I love and hate the same person? That sounds really weird. Because it's really true. There's a reason to love, and there's a reason to hate. What are you hating? You're not hating the person. You're hating the evil that has such a grip on this person, that is so enslaving this person, that even though with all your heart and all your emotional relationship with them, and you're pouring on the love and pouring on the rebuke, and they can't escape this evil, wow, this evil is really intense. This evil is really gripping them. This evil is worthy of hating. At the same time, mitzvah lahava. Sorry, my eye went to the wrong line. But there's a very valid reason why you're loving them. You're not loving the evil. You're hating the evil, but you're loving them. You're loving that piece of God that is their core, that is their soul, that is them. A spark literally of God inside them. That vivifies their soul. So if you actually would ever encounter this Jew, which you probably wouldn't, you have 2 commandments, not in conflict. Talking about 2 separate things. Hate the evil that's gripping them, that's enslaving them, that's imprisoning them, and love them the same reason you love every other Jew. Why am I loving every other Jew in the world? Because they're a piece of God. That's why you're loving this Jew as well. He's still a piece of God. So you love the God in him. You hate the evil that's controlling him. Both are true. Speaks later in Tanya about Rebbe Lazar, the son of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who his father, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, was teaching him the secrets of the destruction of the temple. And Rebbe Lazar says, this is recorded in the Zohar, wow, now that I know all these secrets, tears are implanted in my heart on one side, and joy is implanted in my heart on another side. Meaning, I right now feel such pain, because far more deeply than ever before, I understand the destruction of the temple. And I now feel so much joy, because far more deeply than ever before, I now know God's secrets. I now know the mystical truth of what was going on. So how do you feel simultaneously love and pain, joy and grief? Because it's for 2 different reasons. So they don't wipe out each other. They're 2 separate pieces. So in a sense, that's what's going on here. You're feeling the love for the soul. You're feeling the hatred of the evil gripping the person. 2 separate things. So you can feel both emotions, no conflict. But then the Alter Rebbe says, might not be so simple. Why might it not be so simple? Because we're not surgeons with scalpels here. We're humans. And emotions are not like surgical tools that we could so precisely hate the evil and so precisely love the God and no conflict. I mean, in theory, it works. But if you're actually trying to put this into practice, it will be very difficult. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe advises adding another emotion to the mixture. And this I find personally to be one of the most relevant, practical, effective pieces of advice in the entire Tanya. I freely share it all the time. It always works. So this is very, very practical if you apply it to the situations in your world. What does the Rebbe continue to say? The Gam, and also to arouse compassion in his heart on her, on the soul. Because she's stuck in this exile under this evil of the other side. That so strongly conquered her, that so strongly over her in people that are such sinners. The harachmanus mevateles hasina umaoreres ha'ahava. And what does compassion do? It's an enormous tool. It nullifies hatred and elicits love. As is known from this verse, in which we're going to have a Kabbalistic reference, Yaakov asher pada es Abraham, to Yaakov, to Jacob, who redeemed Abraham, who redeemed Abraham. That is a verse from Isaiah, from Yeshaya. What does it mean to Yaakov, to Jacob, who redeemed Abraham, who redeemed Abraham? How did Jacob redeem Abraham? So on a Kabbalistic level, Abraham represents love, and Jacob represents compassion. To Jacob, who redeemed Abraham, compassion. Let's decode this. Jacob, compassion. Abraham, love. Compassion redeems, frees love. Meaning, here you are in a situation, and you're supposed to love this person, but you have a lot of negative feelings. This is not a person you process as a good person, as a whatever. Fill in the blanks. It's a lot of negative feelings here. A lot of non-loving feelings. But you're supposed to love. You do want to love. But it's really hard to love. So the Rebbe says, this is what you need to do. Feel compassion for the person. Feel compassion for the soul. What am I compassionate about? Because the soul's stuck under that evil. Or like I think about it, this person lives with himself all day long. I can feel a lot of compassion. I'm just interacting briefly, maybe on the road, maybe on a phone where I can hold it like this or hang it up. This person lives with himself all day long. This soul is stuck under this evil all day long. So much compassion. To Jacob, who redeems Abraham. Compassion releases love. When you have compassion for a person, it mitigates the negative feelings and releases the positive feelings. So if you were in a relationship with someone, you were dealing with someone, and for whatever reasons you had a lot of negative feelings, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, the Rebbe is saying, add compassion to the mix. Feel compassionate for the other person. Why do they deserve my compassion? Well, if they're hurting other people like that, imagine how they're hurting themselves. Imagine what they feel like inside themselves if that's how they treat you. Imagine what they've been through. Maybe you even know what they've been through. You don't have to imagine. Just think about it. The more you think about it, well, this person's acting this way. Well, why is he or she acting this way? Oh, right. Yeah. Feel compassion for them. There's usually a reason. There's usually a backstory. The more you feel compassion, what does it